Hey there, I'm Sarah Rosina, and I'm your host, along with my co-host, Sean Blackshear of What's Your Take Media podcast. Hey, do you love movies? I know I do. I'm actually like a movie nerd. I'm always bringing up movie lines with my friends, connecting other actors with other actors, and I consider myself kind of like a movie critic. So much so, I decided to create a podcast dedicated to the movies and television shows you and I love. My co-host, Sean, and I will be critiquing new and classic movies and television shows from all over the world. Subscribe today to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Hey, yo, you shaking it out with the one and only K.I.D., the Kid Capri. And you were listening to Macchiato's Music and Scriptures podcast with Martinez, making it happen. Yo, Martinez, you know what to do, man. Make sure you deliver it, all right? Take them on out of here, kid. One.
Around the world, they drink this beverage in its many exotic forms. Half coffee and half hot milk.
I praise the Lord and keep the faith.
Sipping my macchiato, gotta get my cream up.
I do this for Christ, boy. This ain't for the culture.
Believe the scripture.
Thank you for tuning in to Macchiato's Music and the Scriptures. I'm your host, Martinez. Please subscribe to these podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, you can send your emails to podcasting@mmsmedia.org. And you can also follow me on social media at mbills314. Now, yet again, I told you all that I'm trying to expand myself. I'm trying to expand my reach. And so I'm stepping out and I'm doing more interviews. And in honor of Black History Month, I have the opportunity to interview the first Black female referee of the NFL, Miss Maia Chaka. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, thank you. I hope you can say the same.
Yes, all is well. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. Thankful that you were able to join us. I know it's been a busy season. The NFL just ended, and with the Super Bowl. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I am here in St. Louis, Missouri. So it is bittersweet that the Rams won the Super Bowl. I am technically still a fan. I've been a fan for over 20 years, but it's still a little hard. You know what I'm saying? They kind of moved back to LA. So, of course, most people in the city ain't with it. So I'm definitely a minority fan still. But how did you enjoy the Super Bowl? Were you able to attend at all? Or were you at home?
No, I attended it from home like most people did.
Okay.
But I enjoyed it. It was a great game. I think they had a lot of great playoff games this year. Yeah. And, just made... If you're not a fan of football, this playoff season probably made you fall in love with it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. Rams made me a little nervous, but we pushed through. But that's enough of that. Let's get into you, because this is Black History Month again. And I don't know if you may not recognize yourself as this, but I consider you are definitely in the history now of Black history. So 20 years, 30 years, or even years from now, when people discuss Black history, do you realize that you would be in that book?
I really don't think it still really hasn't hit me.
Yeah.
Just because I'm living in it. Yeah. And, I don't consider anything that I'm doing special. Mm-hmm. I know that other people do. And I realize the platform that I have and the responsibility that I have.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm just enjoying the moment. I'm enjoying going out there, being able to work. So a lot of people who just don't have that privilege of just being able to work. Yeah. So I'm just enjoying that. So, but yeah, maybe in about 20 or 30 years, when I step off the field.
Yeah.
When the pressure's off a little bit, you can really enjoy it, right?
Absolutely. And that's something I always say. Like, I was doing like a Black History segment, and I was saying, for Black history, even though we discuss a lot of our ancestors and Black inventors, I made the statement that, the book on Black history hasn't been closed. Like, it's still open. There's still opportunities for us to, make things happen. Still laws that need to be changed. Still inventions that still need to be invented. There are still so many different things and opportunities that we can do. So I just want to congratulate you. I know we're just beginning the interview, but I want to beforehand just congratulate you for your induction into as I would say, the Black History book. It's definitely a blessing. Just when I saw the announcement on the internet, and saw your picture everywhere. I was just like, wow. And that was something I never even realized. I'm like, wow, we never had a black female referee. So that was interesting. And I wanted to reach out to you just to talk a little bit about yourself and your upbringing. I know that you are born and raised in Rochester, New York. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And how was, tell me a little bit, just going back if you can, what was your upbringing like in Rochester? Did you grow up in like a sports family, or how was that?
I don't really think I came up in a sports family. Like, neither one of my parents played sports. Mm-hmm. But my grandfather, my mother's father, he was heavy into sports, and that's all he did. He watched sports. He watched football, baseball, basketball, boxing, anything that was on ESPN. That's what he did. Yeah. And I think for me, I was just a kid that used to love to go outside and play. Mm-hmm. And I didn't care what it was. Like, I would play, I don't know, wagons, play football, whatever, anything just to be out the house. Yeah. And my parents never discouraged me from that. They never said, you can't play this or you can't do that because you're a girl. Yeah. Or wear a dress because you're a girl. They let me do whatever made me happy. And I think that's really important, when you're talking about parenting and especially, early childhood development. You want to make sure that your children are happy. That's what my parents did a really good job doing that for me at a young age. Yeah.
Well, that's a blessing, and that is very good to hear. So where did the motivation come from? Like, did you, just kind of skipping a little ahead? Well, I do know that you got a degree and you went to Virginia, college in Virginia. Is that correct?
Yeah, I went to a Norfolk State University.
Okay, yeah, Norfolk State University. Shout out to everybody.
Got to show love for the HBCUs.
There you go, HBCUs all the way. Yeah, we have a HBCU here in St. Louis, Harris-Stowe State University. So that was something that I inspired to do, was go to HBCU. But how I was doing at that time, I said, I think even going to a college would be too much of a distraction for me. So let me just go straight to radio school, and that's what I did. But But I had aspirations of going to Clark Atlanta University because my aunt lives in Atlanta. So yeah, shout out to all the HBCUs. How was it like going? I mean, do you feel like attending the HBCU kind of changed, like helped you out in ways that you think another university probably couldn't?
I think one of the beautiful things about HBCUs is the amount of representation that we have to see so many Black professionals. Yeah. And that's empowering in itself. Growing up, the representation that we have, you probably were a fan, maybe it was like a different world. Like that's what we saw, and that's what really made me want to go to HBCU. But then my parents also had that bookstore where they were very dominant, like in Black culture, and not even just Black culture, but anything that was non-European. Like not that anything was wrong with European, but that was what was dominant on the media wave. Right. So they exposed us to all cultures, Hispanic, Indian, you name it, Greek, whatever it was, we were exposed to it. But they were just really adamant about going to continue your college somewhere. And I think a lot of the Greeks, like the Divine Nine, will come in and they will have their meetings in the store, and they will talk about HBCUs and the importance of networks. So I was exposed to that culture at a young age. Yeah. And so I knew that was something that where I wanted to continue my education was at HBCU.
HBCU. And what was your major in?
I majored in health and physical education.
Health and physical education.
Majored in that and enjoyed it.
Yeah, and then it's to my understanding that you were, and we can talk about it a little later on, but you were a physical education teacher for high school?
Yeah.
Was it high school?
That's correct. I taught health and phys ed straight out of college for 15 years, 14 years. And then I'm still in education now. I'm just not in the classroom anymore. Yeah. Right now I'm working for a nonprofit that partners with education, that partners with schools, and we pretty much help to bridge that gap and provide educational equity.
And this is a non-for-profit that you started?
No, this is not one I started. I do have one though. Yeah, okay. But this is just one that I work with, and we target specifically underserved communities. And it was just a great opportunity for me to continue my passion of being in touch with the youth and allow myself flexibility, because it's really hard. Yeah. When you're officiating 6 months out the year, to be a consistent classroom teacher, and you have an obligation to students. And so the new position that I took, it's a success coordinator, where I pretty much coach students to try to make them be the best versions of them that they can be to make them successful and help them graduate.
Oh, I love that. That's needed. That is absolutely needed. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your transition into becoming a referee? Like, and I'm totally ignorant of this, so I want you to kind of walk me through it as much as you can, walk our listeners through it. I guess number one, tell us what made you decide to become a referee, and what is the process like of even becoming a referee on that level? Is it like a camp you go to? Is it like, you know, how you have police trainers, like you got to go through this and that before you do that? Like, what's the process of even refereeing on that level? Like, and what made you want to do that?
So first of all, I want to become an official so I can boss men around. Okay. No, I'm lying. That is not the truth. No, I've always had a drive for athletics, and I didn't continue my basketball career when I went to college because, you know, women athletes didn't make a lot of money. You know, it's really rare that you can really support yourself. You'll end up making more money, you know, having a regular job with a degree, a teaching degree, which is sad, but that's the reality of it, right? And so I always wanted to be able to get back into athletics somehow. I just know I didn't want to coach because I knew how time consuming it would be. Yeah. And so I just thought about officiating. And I had a friend of mine who I was actually teaching with in high school in Virginia Beach. He was another PE teacher with me. He's the one that introduced me to football officiating. And he encouraged me to do it. And what's so crazy about it is he doesn't look like me at all. He's a white male. And that's probably the last person that you think, you know, and I'm bringing that up because that's a huge thing now. Like, especially I'm dealing with a lot of youth, and they're afraid to step outside their comfort zone and to talk to someone that doesn't look like them. Yeah. But this is someone who doesn't look like me at all. We don't listen to the same music at all. We're complete opposites. The only thing we have in common is we love athletics. Yeah. And so he saw that in me, and, you know, he really got behind me 100% and taught me to officiate high school football. He's coaching me up as a teacher while he's coaching me up as a high school football official. Then he put a college rule book in front of me after my first year of officiating like high school football. He said, hey, you have what it takes to go all the way. You know, you're going to surpass some of these guys. And so he really put that vision in front of me to be a college football official. And so from that point on, after working high school, the natural progression is high school football, and then you work like maybe some junior college and some D3, D2, work your way up to D1. Myself, I went straight out of high school, straight to a Division I football field. So in 3 years of officiating high school football, I worked the state championship. And the year after that, I was working in Conference USA, which is pretty much unheard of. It's almost like LeBron taking that jump, right? Yeah. Because nobody really goes from high school straight to Division I. But the reason why I was afforded that opportunity, again, another white male who was my supervisor at Conference USA, he told me that he knew that if he didn't give me the opportunity now, that I would get discouraged along the way, because the area where I live in, he goes, they would not be kind to women and especially to Black women. He goes, there's just a lot of still that old mentality that it'll be difficult. And he wanted to bring me under his wing before I was, you know, damaged or discouraged. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Not to cut you off, but what's interesting about that, as I'm thinking about it, these gentlemen must have saw something in you that they knew, like, okay, we need to keep you going forward, because that just seems not odd, but it's just like, okay, you should consider this, and then you get to a certain stage, and like you said, another white male steps in and say, no, let's so forth, and like it had to be something about your character and your personality where they saw something in you that said, you know what, she's gonna do some big things. So, but that's amazing. Well,
it's really to be an official, you have to be very confident and commanding, right? You have to be, you know, fit, athletic, and I just was able to check all those modes. And then on top of that, you know, just being articulate, because that's a huge part of the game, is being able to talk to people and not being intimidated. And so once you add all those things together, you can learn football rules, you can learn the mechanics, but it's just those intangibles that you're going to have. And so Mr. Austin, when he took me to Conference USA, you know, I was just lucky enough that I had already started reading the college rule book before he took me in there. So Sean, who prepared me in high school, prepared me for college. And then they were just fine-tuning me along the way. So
did everything seem to happen fast? Because how you were explaining it seemed like everything was like a domino effect. Like you went from here to here to here, and you were just kind of flowing.
It did. Like, so first starting out, like I'll tell you right now, like 3 years state championship. 1 year later, I'm working Division I. Most high school guys, it takes them 5, 10, sometimes even, they don't even work a state championship. So I was able to, you know, work hard enough so that I can surpass my male counterparts to even qualify to do that. Then working Division I football, I worked 3 years of that. Then I was interviewed by the NFL in 2013 and brought on to the development squad in 2014. So
to even interview for the NFL, is that something you have to put in for, like an application, or do they find and seek you out? How does that work?
They find you.
Okay.
They pretty much find you. So it's like once you are like in that Division I pool, they like supervisors. They talk. They say, "Hey, we have someone that has the potential." And at that time in 2013, I wasn't qualified to be in the National Football League, but they're just saying, "Hey, she has the potential to make it." That's how they really seek out their candidates. They look at the people who have the potential, and then they work with them, and they even decide if they're going to be a good fit or not. And you know, once I got to the NFL level, you know, everything else was taking me 3 years and I was somewhere, or 5 years and I was there. It took me 7 years of development in order to be ready to be hired. So if things did happen fast, but then it kind of hit a plateau after a while. So, you know, I was grinding away, working football for, you know, 13, 14 years before I even got hired into the NFL. So it seemed like it happened quickly, but I put in a lot of work for it.
I see. You put in, I mean, you were grinding. I mean, you definitely was grinding. So I guess as you're in that training and development, were you still working at the school while you were doing that, or something you had to devote your entire? Okay.
Still working at the school. So I would work Monday through Thursday, maybe half a day on Friday, and then fly out on Friday to work a college game on a Saturday and fly right back home that Sunday, and I go back to work on Monday. Wow. And I did the same thing now, even as an NFL official and working with Achievable Dreams, the nonprofit I work with. My work weeks sometimes are 80 hours long because of just the amount of time that you have to put in at work, you know, to do the job the correct way. And then, you know, off the field, the work that you have to do off the field as well for preparation.
So tell us about the time when you got the call that, okay, it's time, it's go time, we need you on the field, and it's going to be this Sunday. Like did they prepare you for that? Was it like, hey, you may be receiving a call, or was it out the blue? Like, tell us about that moment.
No, it was totally out the blue. So like, you know, being in development for 7 years, you think you sit back and you watch so many people jump you and surpass you, and everybody that you work with, you finally see them get the call. So I was just in a mode where I was just used to just existing. I was like, I'm not going to get the call. They just keep me around, whatever. You know, in order to get in, we worked the Senior Bowl, which is like the all-star game for college seniors that are getting ready for the draft. And I had worked the Senior Bowl something crazy like 5 or 6 straight years. And everybody who I worked the Senior Bowl with got hired except for me. Right. So it's like always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And so I had just finished working the Senior Bowl. I had a really good performance. I thought I felt good about it. I'm at home playing 2K with my nephew. I love NBA 2K.
Okay. You're a gamer. Okay, there we go. We got that.
I'm not a gamer. I just play with my nephew.
Just play with your nephew. Gotcha.
That's what makes him. You know, that's my excuse, right?
Right.
So I'm playing 2K, and my phone rings at 9 p.m. on a Monday night. I'm like, who's calling me at 9 p.m. on a Monday night? So I look down. It's one of the VPs, is Wayne Mackey of the NFL, and I've known Wayne, you know, outside of football, and 9 p.m. on a Monday night isn't odd to receive a football call, even just to talk about plays, because, you know, Monday Night Football is on at that time.
Right.
So I answer the phone, and he goes, "How you doing?" You know, I'm doing great. And he goes, "We need to talk about your Senior Bowl performance. We have a meeting scheduled next week." I said, "Yes, sir, we do." He goes, "Well, you have a lot of work to do." And I was like, "Excuse me?" Because I thought I had a really good game. He goes, "You have a lot of work to do." I says, "Okay." And he goes, "You have a lot of work to do because you're a line of scrimmage official for the National Football League. Welcome to the NFL." Wow. So that's how the call. He's set it up to make it seem like, you're not getting in again. This is your kid. So, and I couldn't believe it because, you know, like I said, this is something I worked very hard for. And I just thought it never would happen. But, you know. So people who are in that training camp
to become an NFL referee, are there people that never make it? Is it just you're just in there until they say otherwise? Like, what's the process? Like, as far as how does that work?
Yeah, so what happens with the development process is they send you to like mini camps, training camps. You work a few preseason games, and then they'll decide if you're a good fit or not. Like if you, there really is no, I don't know the rhyme or reason behind it and how they scale that.
Yeah.
All I know is that sometimes, they may roll you out. Like I was rolled out for a year where I didn't go to any events at all, but they were still watching me because I guess maybe they thought they brought me in a little too early. So they rolled me out for a little bit. They still watched me while I worked in the Pac-12, and then they rolled me back in.
Yeah.
So I don't really know the formula for that. All I know is that when you're allowed a seat at the table, you try to do everything you can do the right way to make sure that you continue to eat, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so even though I knew that I was rolled out for a little bit, I knew that I still had to put the work in and be perfect at everything I did in order to continue to still have a shot. And yeah, there are some people who they decide, you know what, this is not a good fit. Maybe you're better off as a college official.
Well, and so these are people that be in there for years. So they allow you to be in there for years, and then they finally just say, you know what, I don't think this is for you. Or do they kind of let you know right away?
They give you a shot. They really give people maybe about like 2 or 3 years. And there's only 122 spots. There are 122 NFL officials on the roster. And this past year, I was the only one that was hired because they only had one opening. So the openings don't necessarily come all the time. It's really hard to get in. Like somebody has to retire, injured or whatever. And some of these guys are professionals, or a lot of us are professionals. We all have other careers, and sometimes their jobs just won't line up with what the NFL is offering at that time, and they can't take the position. So there are a lot of different factors that play into why somebody never makes it.
Well, that was definitely the Lord that opened that door for you. You know that, right? Like God definitely opened up that door for you.
Absolutely.
I mean, because when you said it was only one spot, like, and you said it's 120, it's like it was destined. This was for you to get in at this moment at this exact time. So that just blew me away. So what week was your first game?
First game was week 1.
So you started it off. And who was playing? What was the game that you officiated?
Jets in Carolina. So we were at Carolina.
Okay, and describe the feeling. I mean, was your heart pounding, or did you go out there and you just toughened it up like, this is my opportunity, I'm about to nail it? Or were you ever like answering like, oh my God, I hope I don't mess up a call. I hope I don't miss a call.
It was hot. But no, like the adrenaline was right where it should be. And I'll give you, the first flag I threw a holding call. That was the first flag I threw. And a veteran official on my crew came up to me and says, I passed on it. Like telling me really to pick my flag up, not to throw, that it wasn't a foul. And so I looked at him and I said, I'm sticking with it. Because I just couldn't see myself, the very first flag that I ever throw in the National Football League, I can't see me picking it up and saying, no.
It'd be an error.
I don't want to. It's an error, right? So I said, I'm sticking with it.
Yeah.
And so my crew's like, all right, she's sticking with it. And they stuck behind me. Now, when the grades came out, when it was evaluated, they understood why I threw it, but they explained to me why they didn't want it thrown. Like, it wasn't bad. Like, to the naked eye, it was the guy who was telling me to pick my flag up, he was a veteran. He'd worked many Super Bowls and he'd been around a long time, so he knows what the league wants.
Yeah.
But one thing that he told me, my whole crew said, hey, it doesn't matter if you got it wrong. So I didn't get a bad mark against myself. This is, we know why you threw it. But the beauty of it is you stuck with it and you had the confidence. And that's why you're here, because you're going to make your calls.
Yeah.
And, and go ahead.
No, I would say you didn't fold, and that's good. Yeah.
And that's that. There's like, you're ready, like when you can do things like that.
So how many games did you actually work?
I had 16 on-field games this year. So
you did
there's 18 weeks.
Okay. So you pretty much did the whole season.
There's 18 weeks. Yep. We had 2 weeks off, and then I had 3 preseason games. So I was on the field 19 times.
Wow. And
plus training camp.
Plus training. Wow. So, well, like I said, you've had 13, 14 years of of training. So I'm not even going to ask you, were you ever intimidated being out there on the field?
Never.
And that's why you got the position. You know, you wasn't intimidated. So tell me this: what, if there is any, what's your probably craziest experience this year?
Craziest experience?
Being an officiant.
I would tell you this. So we had training camp.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second training camp I went to this year. We had training camp in Baltimore.
Okay.
And I left my shoes. I didn't have shoes to start training camp. I came downstairs. We're departing to go, to go to work, and I come downstairs in flip flops and a pink pedicure.
Oh wow.
And my crewmates was looking at me like, "Where's your shoes?" So they gave me a hard time about that. So, Baltimore, they had to hook me up with shoes when I was in training camp, and then. I don't live too far from Baltimore. I had a friend of mine drive my actual pair of shoes up, so I was able to get some shoes. But
now that's a friend right there. I need you to drive my shoes up. Oh, okay. Yeah. Say less.
But I had no shoes, and then that was like the thing. Like the rookie forgot the girl, she forgets her shoes. So
wow.
They had everybody in the whole training camp in on it too.
Oh, really? Was you embarrassed?
Yeah.
Or were you just like, whatever? It's whatever. I'm like.
No, I'm not embarrassed.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Right.
The thing is when you accept your fault and you just hold yourself accountable for stuff, you can't do it. Everybody's going to forget something. Nobody's perfect.
I agree.
I'd rather forget them to training camp than forget them to a game.
There you go. That's a big deal. You can't come out on the turf with flip-flops on and say, yeah, I done forgot it. So yeah, you're right about that. So have you had to make any lifestyle adjustments? So seeing now you the big dog, for lack of a better word, you're out there on the field, you're doing your thing. Like what type of lifestyle adjustment? Now I see the gram, you got your suitcases, you showing us week by week where you're going and you styling, you know what I'm saying? So what kind of lifestyle changes or adjustments did you have to make, if any?
So that's a lifestyle adjustment because I'm really I won't say introverted, but I'm really, I'm not really big on social media. And so, when somebody finds out who you are, they want to know more about you. Yeah. And so that was an adjustment for me, having to, make posts and, letting people in just a little bit.
Yeah.
But other than that, my entire life has changed. Nothing is the same, since the announcement was made. 2 new careers, being able to balance that, being able to balance everyone looking at you, being, having that scope on you is a little different.
Yeah.
But, you just take those things day by day.
Yeah. I like that. Now, since you been officiating, did you face any type of discrimination or anybody that kind of looked at you sideways like, this rookie? You know what I'm saying?
From my entire career?
No, just on the NFL specifically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In the NFL? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, they probably have, but people there are really professional.
Okay.
And
that's good.
If they did have anything to say about it, I'm pretty sure they said some things behind my back, behind closed doors.
But nothing was verbalized to you?
Nothing, no.
Good.
And, like I said, I work with a really good group of guys that have had my back, and they kind of sort of scream that from me. And I have, my supervisors and stuff in there, my bosses and things there, they're really good too. So
now here's a question that I have for you also, that a lot of people may think, because you kind of bringing us in the world of a officiator in the NFL. So it's kind of interesting. So do you all get fined for missed calls?
We do not.
Okay.
We do not get fined for missed calls, but we are evaluated.
Yeah.
Like any job you're at, we have job performance evaluation. And so those things are taken into consideration when they make assignments, for, playoff games and Super Bowl. All that goes into your grade percentage.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it is a job. Career, you got to get evaluated. We all got to get evaluations. So that's good. So is there anything that you have to do as an NFL referee to qualify to work the Super Bowl? How does that work? Is it like a lottery? You put your, how does that work? Who picks who? How do they pick that? Seniority?
So there's no lottery. No, there's no lottery. To be eligible, you have to have at least 5 years of experience on the roster. And you had to have, I'm going to get this wrong, because I haven't even looked that far ahead yet for myself. I know I'm not eligible.
It's okay.
But I believe you had to at least work like a divisional game like the year prior.
Okay.
So you had to constantly perform like on a scale of excellence. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like I spoke about the evaluation process before, everything is based on percentages, right? So depending on, and it's everything's out of 100, but those top tier officials that are working the Super Bowl, like their grade average is something ridiculous, like a 98.9% accuracy. And the 0.9 counts, like those tenths of a point count, you know? So even if you are like a 98.5, you may not get it because, you know, you're not that nice. You might have 7 people that are in 98.8 and then 2 people that are 98.7. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's really hard. And I don't know if they actually rotate throughout there. People are constantly getting it. I have no idea, but you do have to reach certain criteria, you know, grade wise and, you know, years experience in order to be eligible.
Okay, because I was curious about that, because especially during the Super Bowl, I saw some brothers out there. Now, I did see the older gentleman, but then I saw like a younger gentleman. I seen a couple of brothers out there. I'm like, I never seen them before, but you can tell they were excited. They were happy, and I was just curious, like, okay, I wonder how does that work? We got all these NFL officiators, and they're like, okay, I want you, and that's it, and we coming. So that's good to know. Now, are you all, is it like a family? Like, do you all kind of know each other, or like all the officiators in the NFL? Like,
yeah, it's like a fraternity.
Yeah, okay.
Like just football officiating, because it's such a small community. Even like when we start talking about like the Division I college officials, because all their trainers are NFL officials, it's like a frat. So everybody knows everybody for the most part. You know, especially depending on what side of the world you live in. Like if I live on the East Coast, I have connections with officials on the East Coast, up and down. So
okay.
But then I also worked on the West Coast in the Pac-12, so I'm close to a lot of the California and LA officials also. So.
Okay. So what are your plans, or how does it work when you are officiating? Are you in? Like, are you coming back next year? How does that process? How does that work?
So so as far as I know, I'm coming back next year. Okay. If your performance isn't up to standard, you'll pretty much will receive a notice like at a certain time to let you know that they're not going to ask you back or that you won't be rehired. So that's how that works.
Okay.
So I mean, anything can happen at any given time, though. Because so if you're asking like about job security as an official is not as secure as when you get tenured, like as a teacher or something like that. Okay. It's strictly performance based, and as you can see, like we're under a lot of scrutiny, like performance wise. So. Yeah, well, we believe in God gonna keep you there for a very long time. As long as you want to be there, I'll be there. We're gonna believe you're gonna be there. So appreciate it. No problem. Ms. Maia Chaka, I really do appreciate you for taking time out of your day and talking to me and the listeners today, and just explaining your overall experience, you know. And once again, we congratulate you on being the first Black woman to become an NFL officiator. Keep doing great. You already know. I mean, you've been prepared for this. You know what I'm saying? Like, forget what the naysayers say, if any, because this is your first year, but you never know. Going down the line, oh, she's still here, you know. But I can already tell. I can tell by your personality. You pretty strong. You pretty tough mentally. Like, ain't nobody finna get in my head and so forth. Plus, God prepared you for this moment. So we just want to congratulate you and thank you again for taking time out to speak with us today. Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate it. Anytime. And hopefully maybe next year, we can get you back on, because I want to hear how your second year as an NFL, maybe see if your posture shifted, or, you know what I'm saying, next year, let's see. You know what I'm saying? Like, the second year, it was a little rough. You know what I'm saying? But I might really have my swagger then. I hear you. Let y'all know. No, you good. But thank you all again for listening to Macchiato's Music and the Scriptures. Remember to send your emails to podcasting@mmsmedia.org. And remember also that you can follow me on social media at mbills314. And as always, remember the book of Romans chapter 3, verse 4, latter verse, let God be true and every man be a liar. Until next time, I'm out.